No, but I'm still sorry.
It was what I was worried about. And hopefully, but I'm early.
Okay, you're on time.
Write that down.
All right. So, by my clock, it is time for us to begin. So, welcome to Lamps. We're having two sessions, one now, one tomorrow, and we're just going to go as far through the agenda as we possibly can, get to take a break, and then resume however far we get, because you will see a 7-slide agenda. Oh, sorry. This is the IETF. Here's the note well. Please pay attention to this. This is important. This is your rights, your privileges, your responsibilities with regard to participating in the IETF. So please don't participate if you aren't going to follow this. Please treat each other excellently. It's okay to disagree with someone, but it's not okay to attack them as a person. 7-page agenda. This has been on the list for quite a while. And are there any agenda bashes? If so, I'll go to the part of the agenda where you're trying to bash. Okay, seeing none. Yes.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering, the discovery, is this working? The discovery slides, I did upload them. I don't know if it made it to the last.
Yeah, I approved them.
Okay, great, thanks. Just wanted to make sure it gets on there.
Okay.
So I'm John Gray from Entrust.
And we're going to manage the mic queue with the online tool. So please log into the data tracker now so you can get in line if you need to. All right. So the first part of the agenda is just to recognize that some work is coming out the other end. We have 3 RFCs. So congratulations to the authors. We have a bunch that is in the RFC editor queue waiting to get numbers. Look at that, 6 documents. Right? So those will probably be coming out soon. Perhaps maybe the first one is the one that will wait the longest because it has a normative reference to one that is not there yet. But other than that, those documents are ready for the RFC editor to finish them. Then we have some that are with the ISG. The first one has to discuss on it, and the area director promised he would review it this week, the response. And we're going to talk about header protection later today. In fact, is there anything on the first one, the binding for multi-auth, where we need anything other than just hear from the area director? Allie? Okay. All right. So DKG, are you going to talk about header protection? All right. This
Hi.
should work.
Is this mic working? Can folks hear me here?
All right.
Okay. So I'm Daniel Kahn-Gilmore. This is actually about both drafts, the one that's in the RFC editor's queue, which doesn't have much to say, but also about header protection. And this is work that's Bernie Haneisen and Alexei Melnikov are the co-editors of these drafts with me. So the header protection draft 24 was released between IETF 120 and now. So we are with the IESG. I wanted to just raise a profile of the very small set of changes that were made. And I want to just raise the profile of that to the folks here to make sure that people are aware of it. And so in particular, the biggest concern was about dealing with the from spoofing risk that header protection potentially creates, and what we recommend doing to defend against that. And to be clear, the from spoofing risk is if I can take a confidential message and I can hide headers, then maybe an MTA that filters based on whether the message had the appropriate origin, DKIM, DMARC, local policy, whatever, maybe that risk, maybe then someone could smuggle a different from on the inside, and then you get back to a spoofing state. And the way that we're dealing with that is if the confidential document does not have a signature and the hidden from and the outer from differ in the adder spec in particular, then you render the outer from and you warn. And that's because we expect at the moment, most people are using systems where the MTA is doing some filtering based on that. I'll go into a little bit more detail later. I just wanted to also flag there are a couple of other specific details that were changed. These are not that substantive. I see Mike with his hand raised, but I don't know if he's in the queue. MTA is the mail transport agent. Yes, that means like your SMTP server. SMTP is the simple mail transport protocol. So people tend to rely on their mail server to do some of that filtering. Right, so this is what I was just talking about to get a little bit more concrete about the risk. MUA is mail user agent. That's your email program. For those of you who use an email program like Outlook, that's the MUA. And for most end-to-end encryption, the mail user agent is what's doing the work. You may not know, if you're using your mail user agent, how much you're dependent on your mail transport agent on the mail server to filter what comes into your inbox on the basis of address is the most common thing today. There's a whole separate complicated set of DKIM and SPF and DMARC, and I'm not going to try to unpack those acronyms. If you don't know what they are, this is a great place to go find out about them. And there's other ways that you could do it too, but often users depend on their mail user agents to make sure that you can't just land an arbitrary email from a spoofed email in your inbox with a different address. And if we generally prefer the hidden headers to the headers on the outside of the message, when we're reading, when we're decrypting, end-to-end decrypting a message, somebody could potentially bypass that spoofing protection. And I want to highlight, this was Alex from Delta Chat who observed this. And so the guidance that we landed on is, first off, we say, look, if the message is end-to-end signed with a valid certificate associated with the address that it claims on the inside, that's good enough for us, right? If we're willing to accept that certificate for that email address and it's actually signed, that's correct. But if you don't have a valid signature, or the only valid signature you have is from an invalid certificate, and the message has been decrypted, and the two from addresses don't match, then we prefer to show the outside from, because that's what has been subject to to mail transport agent filtering. And we have a brief section in there that describes how do you match an adder spec, which has apparently never been done before at the IETF. No one's ever tried to write down an exact thing that says how to match an adder spec, or if they have, none of the editors could find it. So if you know of the right place to reference, we could swap that out, but I don't think we need to. I think it's pretty reasonable. And then the end-to-end mail guidance, as we saw before, is in the RFC editor, and it's waiting on this because there was a misref. So just wanted to highlight that's the main change, that specification. I know that there was a contentious discussion among the editors about what the right trade-offs are there, and this is where we landed. And I want to make sure everyone's aware of it. It's possible that one of my co-editors will want to speak. I don't know what the queue looks like. There he is now, to talk about some of the challenges we had in coming to that conclusion. But yeah, I think I'm ready for the queue.
Okay, Bernie.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Bernie.
Yeah, maybe you can even see me now. Okay. Well, DKG explained quite well what was the problem, and I would like to point out that we had some major disagreements among the authors of this document regarding what we should do with this difficult case. As DKG explained, if we have a certificate that is not valid for whatever reason, and we have a from that is different from what the outside sees and what is kind of in the protected side, then we are preferring the outdoor from header field. I was not really thrilled about it. Actually, I don't think it's a good idea still. As DKIM and DMARC, SPF is something that has been done for spam and is not really a good reliable view or a means to accomplish that what VI end-to-end security is to be accomplished. And also, like, if the network does something that is then used for end-to-end security, does sound like a bad idea to me. I have to admit, I was in the rough, and the other co-authors said, well, this is good enough to do it. And we found a compromise so that email clients that don't want to trust on DKIM or DMARC, they don't have to and are still complying to this standard. That's more or less what I wanted to say. Not sure whether I'm the only one that's in the rough of this thing. But anyway, that's where we are. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say here.
Thanks, Bernie. I mean, I want to just flag that none of the editors were happy with this scenario. The mixture of different cryptographic authorities is weird and awkward and not what we would want, but I think it's the best place that we could land given the scenario of the deployed state of SMTP. I mean, this is the IETF, and our main job is dealing with the curse of the deployed base. So happy to entertain other comments, questions, concerns. Even happier to see it move through the IESG.
Daniel's in the queue.
Daniel.
Yes, hi. I wanted to just briefly mention that there was another case that we discussed, right, which was about the CC headers, which is another case where in certain cases you might want to trust the MTA over the sender if, let's say, the sender sends you an email with a CC header in it claiming that they have also sent the email to someone else. And if you believe that the MTA will verify that, or that it's only possible for an email to come from that MTA, where that is actually true, if the CC header says so, then you might want to also, prefer the outer CC header instead of trusting the inner one, because otherwise the sender might claim that they have sent the message to someone else where in fact they have not, right? So obviously this is like even more of an edge case because, well, I also don't know, how many MTAs actually check this, but I think for ProtonMail it's usually true that you can trust the CC header for emails that you get from us. I don't want to like 100% claim that that's true, but I think that's usually the case. So anyway, that's another case that people might want to be aware of, I suppose.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, we discussed that case as well among the editors, and it's even fuzzier than the from case. I think even knowing that something has a CC doesn't mean that it actually made it through to the other party. And we don't know what the different policies of the mail transport agents are, and the policies might differ on the basis of what domain the particular CC is to, right? Maybe they know that they're going to guarantee that it was actually CC'd properly within this group, but maybe we can't send it outside. And we decided that was too complex to try to work around. And the from was a more certain edge case that we did need to deal with. But Daniel's right to raise that as a potential concern, depending on how much people are dependent on their mail transport agent. I don't see anyone else in the queue.
Okay, does anyone have concerns with asking the ISG to continue with their processing at this point? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What's next? What's next? No, no, we're down here.
Oh, you're right. IMQ usage. I don't know that we have
I don't even see Rohan in the room. At this point, IM key usage is with the ISG, and earlier this week, Roman addressed the comments that from last call. So Rohan, I'm sorry, addressed the comments from. Is there? That was all on the list. If anyone has concerns, please post to the list. I didn't get any slides for that, so I assume he thinks that's done. Any concerns on that? Okay.
X59 message, yes.
Yeah. Daniel, did you plan to say anything about stateful hash-based signatures, which is also with the ISG? Okay. 4210. Yes, I know we got slides for that. So.
Okay, thank you. So we are in the ISG review. We got a number of expert reviews. The co-authors and I did work on these expert reviews. Next slide, please. Oh.
That works.
The co-authors and I worked on
Can you
the
get that closer. There you go.
So the co-authors and I worked on the expert review comments, and I just before the meeting pushed out a number of response mails with addressing the comments. We also uploaded new versions to the GitHub repository. So there the diff and the current most recent versions are available. So we'll wait for the feedback from the reviewers, and as soon as we got some thumbs up, then we would submit a new version based on GitHub. Okay, so what did we do since last IETF? We also got feedback, I think close after last IETF, that the null DN was not specified clear enough. So it is not a null in ASN1, but it's an empty sequence. So we clarified on that. We identified an issue with a direct pop in CMP where we encrypt RAND using envelope data. There we need to specify the key used for decryption, but there is no certificate yet. So therefore we specified how to do that. Yeah, we did some implementation errors, fixed that. No, not implementation, editorial changes to streamline things. We updated the references to the new RFC 9629. Yeah, and that's it mainly on RFC 4210 bis. 6712 bis, we got quite a number of comments on the usage of terminology with regard to HTTP. This is mainly addressing the content from RFC 6712 as we took it over in the BIS draft, but we realized that as of today we should improve that. We did, to the best of our knowledge. The 3 points I listed here are the major changes we did based on the reviews. So we removed the requirement on supporting HTTP 1.0. Even though HTTP 1.0 would be sufficient for the needs we have with transferring a CMP, we realized that it is not meaningful to put a requirement on that. We also removed a sentence on the content length. We felt like it would be helpful to clarify that. Usage of content length had a field, but we learned it is better practice to not do that and just refer to the standards, the current versions, and ask implementers to do as specified there. Same is true for the section 3.8. There were some implementation considerations which were quite vague, more informative stuff, which is based on the current HTTP specification, not needed in that form anymore, and therefore we removed that section as well. Good. So yeah, so also here the current version is on GitHub, and as soon as we sorted out the comments with the reviewers, we will submit that version. While discussing these topics, we came across one new point, which was quite interesting. So in case we have a negative CMP response message, be it an error message or be it a rejection of a certification request or the like, what would we do as status code on the HTTP response? So it is a valid response message from the application, but it is maybe a rejection of a certification request. So would we put an HTTP OK, so 200, or would we put an error code in the response message? And if we put an error code into the response message, would we still deliver the content of the HTTP response to the application, or would we drop it? We looked around a bit how other application protocols are doing it, and they were all not that specific with this regard. And therefore, we asked ourselves, is there anyone who can help us out how to do that? Mike.
The HTTP dir, I would think.
Yeah. That would be the next escalation step.
Mike Ellsworth and Trust. So I'm put myself in queue because I don't want Hendrik to go to the next slide until we resolve this. So the specific implementations we came across, Entrust, when we implemented CMP over HTTP, we thought, let's be helpful. If your, recip nots is wrong and it gets rejected for invalid, recip nots not recognized, let's put a 400. If the DN isn't recognized, let's put a 404. It seems helpful. If people are looking at HTTP traffic in log monitoring, that indicates that a cert request failed. Seems polite, right? OpenSSL, and that's I think our interpretation is valid in the there's ambiguity in 6712, and I think our interpretation is valid. OpenSSL took the other interpretation, and if it will only return the binary CMP content to the application if it was a 200. If you return a 400, OpenSSL assumes that the transport failed.
Right.
Yes.
So both of these, I think, are valid interpretations. So we ended up in this fantastic philosophical debate of, is an HTTP status code meant to indicate success of the transport or meant to indicate semantics of the application? Yes, please.
So obviously many other people ran into that question before, and the answer we've been given was the HTTP layer reports what the HTTP errors are, and the application sits on top of it. And I think that's even described somewhere in some RFC, and I can look at it.
Yep.
So yeah, so I have some counterexamples to that.
Okay.
Acme, if your CSR is busted, you get a 400 response. The transport succeeded, but the CA didn't accept your CSR. If I log into Facebook and I provide the wrong password, the password successfully made it to the server, but I get a 401. Like, I think they're not separable.
HTTP authentication, that's a separate story, but Acme may have gotten it wrong too.
Yes. Okay, June, you're next.
Yeah, I just want to express the comment on this HTTP as transport as should be remain as transport. Any HTTP error should be see as the transporter, not related to the application.
Okay,
Next slide, I guess.
next slide.
Oh,
So
they're backup slides.
yeah, don't worry about the backup slides.
Okay.
It was just on the CAM support if there are questions.
Ah.
So thank you.
Mike wants to say something.
So what was the resolution there? Are we going to say must not use error? Because currently it just says CMP servers may set status codes of 4XX and 5XX. So what language change do we want? Do we say must only use 4XX and 5XX to indicate transport errors? Is that the language we're settling on? Must not use them to indicate CMP errors?
Hi, Sean Turner. I found a reference. There's a whole lot of words in here, but I think it's RFC 9205, which is it's called. Hold on. Ding 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 ding.
Ding, ding, that's really what it's called?
It's called building. It's building protocols with HTTP.
Ooh,
So I think, and it's got a section on status codes. So I'm hoping somewhere in there that it's going to tell you in section 4.6 of 9205 that it's going to tell you what the answer is. And if it doesn't, we're going to go find Mark Nottingham and get him to give us an
yes.
answer. All right. So, I mean, I can do that introduction if you need it.
Yeah, so we'll dig into that.
So if you don't get an answer, like if you can't figure it out today, we'll find him tomorrow. Okay. So
Great.
let's get this knocked out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sean, you're going to put that in chat, right?
Sorry, just one last comment I was going to say. On that. Yes, John Gray from
I
Entrust.
love this.
One of
this
the
light.
one
this
of, the-
hand
one of the
thing.
one of the authors of this as well. My concern is backward compatibility too, because the previous one says may. If we do change it to must, what implication does that have on existing clients, right? So that's where it gets very gray. So like, I know that's my last name, Gray too. I'm good at gray, but anyway. So just think the backwards compatibility because CMP has been around for a long time, so there's
Sure has.
a fair number of implementations.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's just then we probably need to write some
We would
guidance.
not
You
for
need
like
to,
to.
legacy
we would,
implementations.
right. That isn't the goal, but are you allowed to? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Unless
Further
somebody's going
questions?
to swipe again.
All right, 70-30 if you don't have slides, CSR attributes. We're still with IETF, so probably nothing to say.
Okay, 70-30 is with the ISG as well. Michael Richardson said we were done with this, and then we were all set to progress. And then somebody said, "Wait, there's a PR that hasn't been merged," and Michael said, "Oops." So he's going to do that, and then we'll that should be the last thing to address the ISG issue, so they can do last call. So we're waiting for Michael to do that, and then we will hit the pub request document. Basically, we haven't posted the Shepherd's write-up because we're waiting for him to do that merge. But we have already agreed on the mail list that this document is ready for the ISG. So we're just waiting for that last PR to be merged. I'm sorry. No, attestation freshness, right?
No, we're here. We just finished IETF.
Oh, okay. So we're moving now to section 5. active PKIX documents. And who's going to talk to dilithium certs?
You have slides, they should be in order.
They're not in order when they get over here.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I know, it drives me nuts.
Okay, then the name is MLBSA and MLChem.
Yeah, I got one presentation for both. Trying to be efficient. So I know you got a 7-page agenda.
It starts with MLBSA.
Got
Yep.
Yeah, but so does the CMS one.
Yeah,
Yep, I know.
making things exciting. Yeah, I
Oh
decided.
my God.
I
those
decided to do
things-
pink slides. I did pink slides because I was told I couldn't do black slides. So here we go. Some shout outs here. I just want to say Boz is really kind of doing a great job, knocking some stuff out with some examples with me and I, Deirdre and Daniel, I guess, have kind of jumped in there and tried to make things go a lot faster. It's funny because Boz was like, why is Kyber going so much faster? I'm like, there's a whole lot less to do. So I'm going to cover that one first. So next. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Oh, and I guess I should say the only reason why these like Kyber and dilithium are here is because we started the drafts before NIST renamed them. So that's all going to go away at some point. Nowhere in the draft. It's I think in one draft in the drafts it does refer to the old name and say it's not compatible, and that's it. So people shouldn't think we're actually specifying the old ones. We are specifying the actual FIPS specified ones. I saw this yesterday when I was hanging out with Mike Richardson. I saw the little lamps on the glass. I thought that was really funny. Why does this working group not have?
Why didn't you bring it full?
Why does this working group not have a logo just like every other cool one? All right, so ML Chem certificates. I think we're basically done here, right? So we put up a new version, made a bunch of diffs, did all the things I said I was going to do last time. I added NIST-OIDs. I was looking at the SLH DSA internet draft, and I was like, you know, 4 of these drafts ought to sound pretty much the same thing. We're just putting different OIDs. One's the signature's got a little bit of a different block. The chem ones have a little bit of a different block. They ought to stay the same. So basically, I just went with the SLH DSA one, or the SLH DSA one, and just kind of like started hacking stuff. There were some other things I cut over into the other SLH DSA draft. I hit should it. I'll get there in a second. So as a result of that, I ended up refactoring the whole thing. So we moved the ASN modules to the back. We had examples. I cut out a bunch of text. It was just kind of like motherhood and apple pie. I was like, this draft is, or this thing that's going to be an RFC is just like the one that was 3279, which is the old one that specified the OIDs. Got rid of all that crap. Boz knocked out some examples for me, so they're actually there. So you can actually see the actual like PEM encoding. You can look at it. Please check them out. Alicia actually found one of boo-boo in one of them, and they're actually based on FIPS 203. They weren't the draft versions. One thing to note for these keys is that we did do the 64-bit seed. I'm assuming that was what we kind of came to an agreement. It's nice to do that because then you don't need to carry the public key elsewhere. You can just kind of recreate it. I thought this might be a point of, I brought this up specifically because Mike cornered me earlier about this. So let's go. And as a result of putting the seed in, then when we do the PKCS8 thing, which is how you might ship them around, you then don't need to include it. So we basically said, you should not include, or something like should omit the public key field from the PKCS8. So there's no need then for it to be PKCS8. And then we could drop the note saying, by the way, there are some implementations that don't do version 2 of PKCS8. Mike. Oh yeah, sorry.
Mike Ainsworth. I'm gonna give a full talk at PQIP on private keys and seeds. So just shameless plug that maybe we don't need to do this in full here, but there will be this. This isn't as clear as it looks on this slide. Come to PQIP.
Okay, fair enough. All right, cool. I guess the other fun thing was security considerations. I looked at the smart people and said, what do you want it to say? So the fun thing is that there's motherhood and apple pie in there now. It's like, hey, don't give out your private key because that's not so hot. Make a good private key because it's otherwise not going to be so hot. And then there's an informative reference to this draft that Scott and Boz and others are writing, which is actually going to provide much more, full scoped, I guess is one way to say it. Right. And so we looked at that, and the way I figured I would do this was to do it in an informative reference, and so that we wouldn't get blocked, because that draft is not yet adopted by CFRG. And I think that like all the things you're talking about, the really smart people that write code for this are hopefully already doing. Anybody new probably is going to be reading that thing anyway. So I figured we're kind of safe. I just want to let you guys know as chairs, like that could be something an ISG member could tilt at a windmill on. You too,
Tilt
Deb.
the windmill on.
Tilt
Okay,
windmill.
so is it ready for working group?
I'm about there. So we got, I also want to put a certificate example in there. And I thought, all right, we'll be cool. We're actually we're going to do, we made these keys for 768, and then we're going to sign it with the DSA, MLDSA keys that we have in the other draft. And so we're basically just kind of going back and forth about what fields should go in this cert. And so one of the open questions we have is like, what extensions do we stick in this cert? Because the other one's a self-signed CA, right? So what do you want to put in there? Well, it's an entity, or it's a chem cert, so you got to put a key usage for key encipherment. You could put basic constraints in there. 5280 allows it. I guess the question is, should we? Because you can leave it out because it's not being used to sign any, or it's not going to be used.
Entity cert.
So that's one way to look at it. The 5280 does allow you to put it in there and say it's a CA, and you just don't set the key usage, right? To cert sign or CRL sign or digital signature. I'm kind of leaning towards just leaving it out because I think people get confused. But then Tim tells me there's some industry standard. I'm going to kind of wait to see what the actual answer is. Does anybody know off the top of the head what people do?
Corey, will your linter complain?
Well, all right, cool. Eventually, I will send these to you so that you can take a look at them. Because I find that when you put examples in a draft, they get implemented forever. And we screwed up in the past, and then we had to eat it for like a decade. So I definitely need smart people like Corey here to like make sure we get through that. And I need to add some acknowledgements. Once we get the certificate examples done, I think we're done. Granted, of course, I posted the new version of the draft, I think like Sunday night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and another version like yesterday. So I'm sure you all had plenty of time to review it.
Hi, it's John Gray from Entrust again. I just going to mention, so in our hackathon, we make these certificates and these things. So please do interop testing with us with these implementations that you have so that we can all make sure that we're doing it properly.
Yeah. Oh, and the other fun thing is that the SKI and the AKI that we're going to include in these certificates, normally, as you know, they're made with SHA-1. And I asked Boz, I was like, can we not do that? Can we use like Shake 256? And he was like, sure, did it. So I think we can, that's another draft I want to write about. Please don't use that SHA-1 thing anymore in SKI, AKI. It's not a big deal. We know we just use it to crawl the trees, but like, if you're going to
I thought we already had SHA-1 die.
Well, we did, but it doesn't. I should say should not use, but that's another draft. All right, cool. So I think we're basically ready to go. I'll make sure to ship the certs around. Well, we're going to put them in the draft, and you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong, and we can get them fixed. Next, MLDSA certs. A little bit
thing in your hand.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting. So I got a new version as well. The big thing that was really funny, I asked the other authors, is like, can we switch out of XML? And everybody's like, God, we hate XML. So converted it all to Markdown. It's a whole lot easier to deal with. And things suddenly started moving a lot faster. Again, I aligned it more closely with the SLH DSA draft. There still needs some work. I noticed a couple of the fields that we plugged in there about the signature. We use the newer ASN1, and some of the text in there refers to like signature value. Well, there's no signature value field anymore in the new one. So we'll have to coordinate on getting that done. It's all good. Again, I refactored it. More examples. This is 32 byte, sorry, seed, not 64. Again, we shoulded the public key because we didn't need it. To do security considerations, it's kind of open. I don't know if Boz or Deirdre is here and they want to say anything about the text we put in there about 32-bit, or 32 byte, sorry, seed. Good. We still got a couple more alignments. Again, the example cert, which I think we're about done. To me, the big open question here is what we're going to say about prehash, because we don't have any OIDs specifically for that. It's just the three main ones. And obviously, again, we have to add some acknowledgements. Sophie?
Yeah, sorry, Sophie Schmidt, Google tool isn't working. No prehash, please. I hate prehash.
So
every fiber of my being. I wrote an email like about an hour ago to the mailing list with a bit more details. Basically, like for me, the biggest arguments like A, it's not CNSA2 compliant, so that like makes it completely impossible for there. Or we add more options, which I would like to avoid. B, it's absolutely not necessary for MLDSA. I don't know how that like idea came to be. Like MLDSA is designed to have a message representative that can be computed with only public information. So if you want to have the hashing at a different place as you're signing, just do that. You create a completely valid MLDSA pure signature, and we don't have to deal with this extra add-on on options. And lastly, I just think that pre-hashing is a very inelegant, like it, especially for MLDSA, it feels like a violation of what a signature scheme is supposed to do. So I do not see any reason for MLDSA to use pre-hash. It doesn't solve any problem. It makes things more complicated. And yeah, why would we do it?
So the fun part is all the authors have been there at one point or another, and all kind of moved around. So I think we're basically trying to figure out if we're gonna leave it out, we're gonna add it. What are we gonna do? So you're in the camp of no.
It's in the FIPS, but it's not in CNSA2. I have it specifically from Morgan that it is not allowed to use hash MLDSA. Yeah. That is what I'm advocating for. That is the message identifier. Exactly.
All right. Cool.
Like it's in the FIPS 204 algorithm 7 line 6 has a nice little comment that says you're allowed to it's in the email, but yes.
All right.
Yeah, don't do pre-hash, don't do the weird pre-hash, do the MLDSA pre-hash.
Okay.
Russ Housley, I came down here because I'm not talking as chair.
Okay.
Okay. Where you say add pre-hash question, right? You got an answer to that. I think we also have to say add context question, and not do it.
Okay. And Mike's like, and PQIP, I'm going to blow that up.
No, not this one. Mike Elmsworth. Yeah, so I came up here before Sophie and Deb, who didn't get in queue, made good points. You don't have a microphone when you, anyway. Off microphone comments from Deb are awesome. So the point here is, yeah, so just so everyone's aware, the arguments that came up on list in favor of prehash were CRLs can be ungodly huge. And unfortunately, combined CRLs are not going away. We're going to have to deal with these massive things. That's the point that Panos, I think, flipped on. The other one that came up is if you're signing ungodly amounts of classic McLeese certs, you're going to have like megabyte X509 TBSs to ship to your HSM, and you may care about thousands per second throughput on those. Like there's going to be things that we cannot prehash because 5280 doesn't allow that object to be prehashed. So yeah, so to the point that Sophie and Deb said is pure MLDSA allows that step one of the algorithm with the TR thing to be externalized to a separate FIPS module that's on the client side of the network. We should put some language in there that says that's what you should do if you care.
I agree. It belongs in an operational considerations or something like that.
Awesome. We'll totally take PRs are welcome. That's just,
PRs are welcome.
That's my way to go. Okay.
So that means he agrees with what we said before? Okay, good. Just checking.
Oh, I'm not fighting with you on this. Like,
Well, I mean,
don't
you
mind.
can because my name now says not NSA, but
Your name's not.
Still would have fought you. Dennis, do you have anything to add? Yeah, I mean, like all right, cool. So we'll go from there. Boz, you're taking note of all this, so you'll correct me. All right, cool. We get the text. Great, and that's it. So I think basically if the pre-hash stuff is out, we get these examples done. I think that we're very close to being done, and Boz and I are going to work on getting the examples done like this week. We'll put them in a draft, we'll have a new version, and then I think we're ready to go. Because at that point, everything we do, I think, would be minor.
I think we were poised for working group last call on both docs. So get there.
Well, yes. The other thing about this draft means this one can't go anywhere until Mr. Salter's draft goes someplace. So while that's been accepted, the way the ASM modules work is we follow the SLDH one, and there's a lot of the stuff that we import is actually in the other draft. So if you want this to move quickly, you gotta want that one to move quickly too.
We already did the adopt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Elmsworth. Okay, hold on. So just to be very clear, we've been discussing hash or prehash allowed in CA true certs, and we've been discussing hash or prehash allowed in entity certs. The decision here is nowhere. We are
Correct.
going to kill that section of the FIPS draft. You cannot put them in certs. It is nothing that uses certs will ever be allowed to use prehash mode.
Certs will never be signed with prehash.
So for
That's a different sentence.
That
Never
is
be
the first thing
si-
we decided.
So that's like CA true certs can't contain prehash.
Correct.
But then Deb just said any certs. So I can't build a mic protocol that needs MLDSA prehash keys and gets them from X509. I just will not be able to do that.
That is what we just decided. That part had not been decided before today.
I just wanted to make that clear.
yeah, can use the mic.
Scott, use the mic.
So it should be everything that you're signing. Certs of any kind,
Yep.
CRLs, which are signed. What else you got?
CMS messages.
OCSP.
Anything you want.
protocol.
You're not jamming large amounts of data into either an HSM or a smart card. Thank you very much. Just hash it on the outside and then sign it.
I just want to say that when you guys were all talking about getting rid of it, there was like 6 thumbs in the air behind you. So the people that are in virtual land didn't see all that. So.
I hope so.
All right, cool. I think we got our clear marching orders. So we'll go
Mike,
from there.
You're not in line now, right?
No.
Okay. All right. Sean is done.
We should do this one first, SLHDSA. We'll come back to my solution.
Okay. We're going to do SLH DSA now.
This should, well, was going to be a short one
Don't
until
predict.
until the last conversation. So this is just an update for the SLHDSA algorithm identifiers. In version 2, we aligned with FIPS 205. We added the private key format. We added examples, very straightforward. We had a working group last call. Marco had some comments. Sean helped with the 2021 ASN1, fixed her certificate examples, NITs. I don't think I posted version 3 yet. It's been too busy. So if I haven't yet, I'll do it soon. And then the major point is, are we doing the same thing with prehash as the lithium certificates? As I understand it, and Sophie can correct me, SLHDSA doesn't have the same public. So what does that mean? We have to do, or we're not doing it?
You're asking about PKIX.
Sorry, I'm not in the queue. Scott Fluor. One of the problems with doing the same sort of trick on their side for SLHDSA is that there are security issues if the outside end was malicious and decided to repeatedly and pick the random values maliciously. That can actually allow basically allow allow forgery. So I don't see how we can allow that.
So to be clear, the entire implementation would have to be within one module. It couldn't be split across multiple modules like for dilithium.
That is correct. There.
Okay, so then do we need prehash for SLHDSA?
In my opinion, yes, because there will be some times where extremely large messages will need to be signed.
Okay.
So Scott, just to make sure, what I think you've just said is certificates will never need to be signed with prehash, but you might need a public key in a certificate that allows prehash.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, Panos is claiming that certificates also need to be signed with prehash just because of the scalability issues that they're seeing. Most people don't seem to agree with that. If this is the way the working group wants to go, then yeah, we can specify that the subject public key in an end entity certificate may be prehash, but within a certificate or within a CA, then it cannot be. If that's what I'm understanding. Buzz.
Buzz Westerman, Cloudflare. I would love if we could only do with pure, but I'm afraid that is not the case. Then the problem with the prehash as it's written in
FIPS 205 is that it's kind of unbounded because you can specify a hash there, which has supported. They list some, but that list is unbounded, right? So when do you support pre-hash SLHDSA? I would suggest that we only allow for pre-hash SLHDSA where we choose the specific hash.
Yeah, so NIST has already defined the OIDs with only SHA-512 as a specific hash, and we would just use those OIDs unless we.
Also for the SHA-3 modes?
There's no SHA-3 modes.
No, there are no SHA. You're
What?
correct.
Okay.
So yeah, I think this SLHDSA, this is a pretty hard question. There's one more point that like I'm not the symmetric cryptography person on the team, so I have to kind of manifest him. But there's one point in that SLHDSA has weaker security properties when pre-signed in a relatively theoretical sense. So in that SLHDSA without the pre-signing only requires, I think, second pre-image resistance of the hash, where if you do the like extra thing with the OIDs pre-hashing, then you require collision resistance of that hash. It is I don't know how much it matters, but it does make some symmetric cryptographers sad when we do pre-hashing because they give us extra security properties and then we throw them out. I don't really have a strong opinion either way for SLHDSA. SLHDSA is a bit of a harder one there.
Right. I mean, so in our case, we're not using it pre-hash to sign the certificates. It's just an entity, so it's other people's problem, I guess, if they think that's a security issue.
Hi, yeah, it's John Gray. So I was just wondering, so I think I heard you say, so CA certificates, we won't allow pre-hashing. So if that CA certificate's needed to sign the large combined CRL, how does that work? Because they're self-signed.
Don't do it. Don't allow yourself to create such a large CRL. Use
No,
CRL
I agree it's a bad
points.
idea, but I mean, I know many people do it. We don't like them doing it, and they
They're
keep
about
doing
to
it.
make new routes. They could make CRL distribution points and not put themselves in this box.
Okay, so
Well, so that's one possible answer, and it may even be the right one. But it's not just putting in the CRL-DP, because putting in a CRL-DP is trivial and easy. And so, yeah, of course, you say, why wouldn't anybody do that? The problem is on the other end of the connection all the time. And so
yes,
a lot of people have CAs that have very large numbers of certificates that they're required to, and there are people on the other end who can't consume a sharded CRL or something like that because they're still in the dark ages and all they can consume is full CRLs. So what we're doing here is we're adding a transition from full CRLs to sharded CRLs as part of the
that's what
PQ
it sounds like.
transition.
Yeah.
And if there are some people who want that, and that may be a legitimate thing to do, but I think we have to be very honest with ourselves that we're adding an extra step to the PQ transition.
It's either that or delegated signing, right? Have the CA sign another certificate.
Indirect
that doesn't-
CRLs are a step
Yeah,
even further.
and indirect CRLs would be. I'm just saying that's the choice that's being made here, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty important.
Is that text that should be added to the draft?
Yes.
Yes.
If anyone can help with a PR, that'd be great. So what we'll do is we'll add a completely new section which defines the OIDs for pre-hash only for use within entity certificates.
Right.
That's it. Thanks. Not done. Sorry.
One comment. I'm Quinn Dangatnis. I think I heard that somebody said that only SHA-512 was defined for the pre-hash.
There's OIDs have been assigned, is what they say.
NIST has assigned pre-hash OIDs that use SHA-512 as a pre-hash, and they allow you to assign other OIDs if you want.
Yeah, we have some other OIDs. I just checked. So that's why I got it to check the NIST website to be sure if we to be sure that we had defined it, the other OIDs, and we did.
For which pre-hashes? I don't believe you.
I don't think.
Oh, you don't believe me?
Yes.
No.
So right now we have the OA for pre-hash, you can have SHA-50 to 56, SHA-512, shake 128, and shake to 56.
What's the actual OID that defines SLHDSA with
So right now,
SHA?
for
whatever?
like for SHA-256, we have the OI 35, the signature number 35, 36, and SHA-512, you have 37, 38, 39, and 40, depends on what parameter says.
Is that the OID for for SHA-256 specifically, or for SLHDSA, whatever SHA-2, say
Yeah,
fast or slow with SHA-512?
Yeah, we do have, for example, if you,
All right, I'll come down and look.
I can show you. We define the corresponding hash function, this and the four up here.
Yes. I'll have to look closer. I will have to look closer because from what I recall of the SL or MLDSA, there was a SHA-512 name at the end of the OID, and I'm not seeing it there, so now I'm just confused.
Yeah. So the reason we did all of this,
Can you post that, Suri, to the chat? Is it? Okay.
They were just defined.
the thing is that if you use SHA-2 for your signature system, and then you should be able to use that for your pre-hash. The same thing with the shake thing. That's why we got to have them
Okay.
all
Okay.
here.
This sounds like it's very recent. I don't know how many there are there. Are we going to define all of them?
I don't remember what day we posted them online, but the idea is that if you use a shake for your
No,
signature
I understand.
system, then you should be able to use the shake for the pre-hash. The same thing with SHA-2. If you use SHA-2,
Did
for
you do the
your-
same for
your
MLDSA?
string- Huh?
Did you do the same for MLDSA? Because MLDSA.
No, oh, no. Wait.
No. But just if
No,
they.
but MLD says that we defined the initial OIs, but
Okay.
if you want different hash to different pre-hash,
No. Yeah.
you could define your own OIs, or you could request us
Yeah.
to decide whether or not we want to add that OIs. That's something, if we decided to do, would be easy.
Yeah.
But we just didn't want people to use so many different pre-hashes.
Understood.
It's no point have a standard. You have everything in there.
Okay. So
Okay.
what is this document going to
So
do? Is it going to
it's
use?
interesting that all these pre-hashes have been defined for SLHDSA, but only SHA-512 for MLDSA.
Again, because a SHA-12, because the thing is that the shake is inside primitive
Yeah,
for MLDSA. So if you want to use the pre-hash, to hash outside, you compute the mu outside with the shake, because the shake is the primitive. Shake 256 is the primitive inside the MLDSA.
No, I get it.
Yeah. So then in case if you have the SHA-2 function somewhere and you don't have a shake available, then it's better to use the SHA-512 to do the pre-hash.
Yeah.
So that's why you have two options. You can do the pre-hash with the SHA-512, or you can do the hash outside by using shake 256 by building the mu value outside. So we provided both options for two different hash functions now there.
Yeah. No, it's my bad. I was conflating MLDSA where only SHA-512 is defined despite it using shake underneath and these OIDs. So these may have been defined all the time, and these are the OIDs that we'll put into the draft. It's all good.
I didn't see anything bad. I just wanted to
I'm
provide
saying-
more information about why we did what we did.
I'm saying my disagreement was wrong because I misunderstood. So, that's it.
No, Scott.
One minor question: if we do allow pre-hash, we also need to tell the verifier which pre-hash we use. I would recommend that we just pick one and saying this is what it is. It should be SHA-512 or shake or SHA-3512, something like that.
So the problem there is each variant of SLHDSA has one SHA or shake assigned to it. So depending on whether they want to use SLHDSA with shake or
I
SHA,
mean, it doesn't allow any version to no.
there's not a full mix
Why
and match.
not?
There's because so basically for each variant of SLHDSA, there's one pre-hash defined.
The thing is, if we allow both ways, like Scott like basically implicitly suggested it, there would be like so many different combinations.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a problem that we have 12 voids, 12 variants of SLH.
So like at the minimum, we could have one OID with SHA-512 as a prehash, and another OID with SHA-256 as prehash.
And that means we would like trim down the actual SLH DSA variants that we are supporting or allowing.
Yeah, because why not do the maximum security hash function? And then one hash is very not that expensive. And then
then why did you define so many variants?
so that's why I'm saying only one for each. One for SHA-512, one for SHA-256.
Sure.
That's prehash. And
okay. I don't know what that means. We can take it to the list if we want to reduce the number of voids, but if we can do that, then also reduce the number of voids for signing certificates so we don't define so many. Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks. I don't see them. Honest, did you send slides?
Yeah, they haven't been approved yet.
They haven't been approved yet.
They came in very recently.
You mean like you sent them while we were up here? I have a comment, but I can't say it on the recording.
I was surprised as well coming into the meeting because I thought that Mike is going to upload the slides. Oops.
I'm still looking for them.
You wrote slides? That's what I mean. I can still talk about it if you want. I wrote some slides in.
Come on,
for the rest of the groups, it sounds like internal communication, but what we would try to convey is that we were so busy focusing on the content of the document that we forgot all the administrative stuff. Nobody could hear that on the microphone. No, just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I can start already. So we have actually produced a number of versions of the document. You've seen that on the mailing list. We had these conference calls every second week. Mike organized them for most parts. And I think we have made good progress. There was a working group last call for the CSR. I'm talking about the CSR attestation in case you're wondering.
Yeah, I'm still looking. They haven't made it to Medico yet.
And we've had a working group last call. We got a lot of feedback, and we've been working our way through the issues which are recorded in the GitHub, working group GitHub. You're having the wrong document. That's okay.
Thought that's when you wanted to talk about.
No, that's okay.
You want to talk about this one?
The other one?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the right document. So we are up to version 14. Version 10 was the last one I presented, or Mike presented in the Vancouver IETF meeting. You saw the authors on the previous slide. So there's obviously a lot of changes. Otherwise, why would we would have submitted so many versions? You can see them there. There's still issues in the tracker. Not a surprise, but we tackled some of them. We also worked during the hackathon on an update of the examples. So as we were removing specifically one optimization, namely the one here, multiple evidence bundle with certificate transmission optimization, as it was called. It was essentially another layer of evidence bundles. We removed that, so we sort of the structure is simpler, but it obviously led to changes in the ASM1. So we had to update ASM1, and we also had to fix the examples, which we did. Monty worked on the TPM example. I worked on the key attestation example with the entity attestation token during the hackathon, and Ned worked on the DICE attestation example. That took some time, of course. We also had some back and forth with the DCG, but thankfully some people are participating both in DCG and in this group, so that was possible, and it concerned the allocation of attestation technologies for use in the IANA registries. So we had that corrected and all the OIDs reserved, so that should be fine too. One of the open issues which I would like to point out is the long-standing question about the hint. Just this week, I had a brief chat with Mike St. John's on the back of the room. What we have currently in the document is essentially, we have the hint in there, still in there. It needs to, there's some work needed to define the schema of, for the hint, whether it's, we had this discussion, or should it be a URN, should it be a URL or /URI, or what should it be? So Mike had another suggestion this week, which was to make it, if I hope I summarize it correctly, to turn it into an extension point and then specify the exact semantics of that extension point or that type in a separate specification. Is that a good summary? Without going into the fancy details of how this would be encoded in ASM1?
Mike St. John's. Right now, this thing is set up so it is a fixed type in the structure of the CSR. Instead, I want to tie the type of that field into the OID that you use to define the particular attestation type. Okay, which means then you can go and worry about what the hint looks like as part of the definition of the attestation type, rather than keeping in this document, which should be more general and not deal with hints, because hints are really specific to a couple of types.
You should go to the microphone.
Monty Wiseman, Beyond Identity. So how would there be a separate registry?
You need to speak to the
Talk to the
Sorry,
microphone.
sorry. Would that be a separate registry for each of the OIDs we define for TBM, DICE, whatever? What's the proposal? I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'm trying to understand how we would provide that second layer of registration for the hint. How is the hint defined per type of attestation? Is there?
He's going to respond.
He's going to tell.
Right now, you've got the thing defined as a type specifier, which is an OID and then a structure underneath it. And that structure right now is a sequence of
evidence state.
Something, an evidence bundle followed by an optional octet string, I think is that what's right. So this would basically restructure that slightly, and basically you'd have the evidence structure, which is mandatory, and then you would use a class definition, and you would basically say something like, in fact, I use this, Hannes's attestation, attestation type I've identified by such with ancillary type such is present or is absent. So we just call it an ancillary value. It can be either a hint, it can be whatever you want, and it's part of the definition that associated with the OID.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just trying to figure out how that registration or how someone would make use of that, once within the scope of that particular implementation.
Same way you define an extension for a certificate. You basically define the OID and then what the extension is.
Okay, yep, all right. I don't object. It's just a little more work, but that's
Yeah.
I don't object.
Yeah, we definitely need to sort of work this through. So it's one of the many details of comments we need to work through.
One of the reasons I put this forward is I wanted to get the hint stuff is so weird, and there's so many different ideas about what it could be. Just taking it out of this document and moving forward to get the attestation stuff done, and worrying about the hint in a specific area as opposed to trying to do this in a general area where everybody has a different idea. And you just tie it so whoever wants the OID defines the hint or defines whatever their ancillary data is.
No.
No.
Okay, that's right. I want.
Yeah.
Previous wording, you think that, but-
Yeah. See me after, I'll show you the spec.
Yeah, okay.
Or I'll show you the definition.
Am I interrupting or can I ask?
No, no, no,
Can you
go ahead.
put yourself in the queue?
Oh, okay.
Gary.
No, I did not. I can put it.
Just go ahead and talk, but
Okay,
in the
sorry about
future,
that.
please.
Okay. Yes, Gary Mundium, MediaTek. So Hannes, on the RATS mailing list over the summer, you might remember that we were discussing how to actually deal with, should I explain it in this room? Detached evidence, right? So something like in each you have submodules, you have detached, you have detached claim sets where you bind a claim set with the token. We have that for, if you know, for confidential compute architecture, the attestation profile for that, we have that in there. Here you have a PSA token and a TCG example in the current draft. Do you think that the current spec allows for like detached claim bundling in the CSR? Because I'm having trouble figuring out how to do it.
Good.
And it doesn't seem like it was ever resolved on how this would be done in the RATS working group.
That's a good question. So if you can put it into, can you put it into a CMW, a conceptual message wrapper?
CCA is in a CMW, yes.
Then you can put it in here.
Okay.
But like, of course, you're welcome to provide an example. So we put it into the appendix as well. So,
okay.
Like we have been looking for more examples. So the three of us put 3 examples together, but obviously there are many more uses of
Okay.
attestation technology. So putting them in there to give the reader a little bit of broader view of how these things work would help.
Okay, Monty, no, I'll get in touch with you and Hannes offline on this. Okay. All right, thank you.
So in a nutshell, we are making progress, but we need a little bit more work. We hope to sort of like maybe by the end of this year, we are wrapping this up. So that's my expected timeline. Obviously, it's optimistic, but we've made good progress through the issues and produced a lot of updates. And people are waiting for this, so that also creates a little bit of pressure.
So the slide says that you created issues in GitHub for each working group last call comment, right? And you've been working on them. How many are left?
Good question. I hate this question. 11.
11. Okay.
Well, it's
So you have more work to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to get back to my.
You're gonna do your other slides?
Oh, the other slides.
Yep.
No SD. This is the other document. Actually, I don't know. Hendrik did most of the work on this one. So obviously, there's a little bit of a dependency between the document we're just talking about and this one that has this awfully long title, almost a buffer overflow type of title. So this is the freshness, sort of providing freshness for certificate management protocols when using the CSR. So you heard me talking about this before. Do you remember what this is about? Raise your hand. Oh, Sean, great. Most people don't know. So
no fair.
That's not good. Yeah. So at least my authors know what this document is about. In one sort of quick summary, and I think this figure shows it quite well, is in some cases we use the CSR just sort of as a message, a one-shot message, and potentially even transport it using email or USB stick. But in many other cases, the CSR is embedded in another protocol to actually have some automation and to offer many more features of what these certificate management protocols provide. And attestation, remote attestation, also when it's computed on the end device, there is a desire to have fresh data so that you specifically when the information that is exposed is changes over time, which is typically the case. Like you do a firmware update, obviously the firmware changes, the hash of the firmware changes, so you get some you make some changes on the device, like
you change the processor state changes, etc. There are lots of changes can happen on the device that indicate or have an impact on the security posture of the device. And so we want to get the most recent information, and the way the RATS architecture, one of the ways the RATS architecture sort of illustrates is by use of a nonce. So as shown in this diagram, there's a request for the nonce by the endpoint, by the end entity, which is the attester in the RATS terminology. And it uses a verifier, a logical entity that is sort of collaborates with the relying party. And there is this nonce coming, basically a random number typically, getting sent to the attester, and the software, the low-level software that produces that remote attestation evidence includes that nonce. And so when the verifier then receives the result, it then can check whether the produced evidence is actually freshly generated rather than some old value that has been collected somewhere and it's just being replayed. And so that's what this document does. It defines on how to carry that nonce using the CMB protocol that Hendrik talked about, and also the ESD protocol. And Sean will add another protocol to that mix. And we have updated the AS1, or Hendrik has updated, reworked the document, improved the wording, and also supported multiple nonces to support those use cases where there are multiple attesters on the same device that require different nonces. So that's for more complicated devices like RATS calls it composite devices or layered attester. That play a role here. It's a little bit more like advanced use cases. That's all there is.
There's another slide.
Okay, then it's not all there is. Thank you, Russ. Of course, we have to align it with the CSI attestation because terminology-wise, and also sort of referring to the latest changes there, because we built on top of the CSR attestation. We've also had various discussion with the RATS working group on different attestation technologies because the field is evolving fairly quickly. We have now lots of people talk about use cases relating to confidential computing and confidential containers, which are more sophisticated, require more sophisticated uses of remote attestation, where a device consists of many different peripherals, and attestation evidence gets collected from these different peripherals like GPUs, network cards, etc., storage devices. Hendrik.
So maybe to add on this, that we try to align with the CSR attestation, and in CSR attestation, in one CSR, a number of attestation evidences can be transferred. So depending on the environment, we may have the need for different nonces for the different evidences. So we extended the structure in the nonce request response to carry or to request different nonces. And there we also need to kind of map which nonce to be used for which evidence, so that on the server side this can be handled appropriately and validated properly. We tried also to make use of the AS1 structures laid out in CSR attestation, and yeah, when there are further changes, specifically with regarding to the hints, then we will try to adopt this in this freshness nonce document.
Mike, you took yourself out of the queue? I did. Okay. No, say it isn't so.
Composite SIGs.
Composite signatures.
I didn't see this.
I don't see slides either.
That came via email, right?
So Mike and I are going to both present on composite signatures and composite chem because the documents are related.
John sent the slides.
You proposed it?
Yes.
Yep.
Undated tracker. About an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was before the meeting, but no, it was
Yeah.
a good 45 minutes before.
Yeah,
I
even
was in
45
other
minutes,
meetings.
some people are a bit busy. You
Yeah, I
can upload
apologize.
directly to Data Tracker, and it helps the chairs out a ton. It's kind of new, so if you're older, you might not have seen it around, but please, I forget exactly how it works, but yeah.
You put them on data.
Yep. Yes.
But we had a security director at lunch today.
We were finalizing slides.
There we go.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we're going to talk about composite MLDSA and composite MLChem. So
Yep.
So background refresher.
Can I-
Yeah, you can do
Can actually, before we even leave the title slide,
Too late.
yeah, I wasn't at Jose yesterday, but I heard that things got a little spicy. I just like to level set
That's
here.
a different group.
It's true. Because
Sorry. I didn't
Okay,
mean to just
so
derail your thought.
just to level set here, like we have never in the many years of this draft said that this should be the only thing the only way you should use these two algorithms. Like we're not trying to force composites on anyone else. And I think our argument has always been there exists at least one valid use case for these things, so let's standardize them. Not to preclude other things that use them directly or in other ways or whatever. So like I think there's been some crosstalk of these aren't useful to me, which is a different argument than these aren't useful to somebody. And I just want to keep that in mind as we go through these.
So yeah, so a bit of the history of where we are today. So as Mike mentioned, actually it's been a long history. I think we started in 2019. It took almost 5 years to get adopted, but we're adopted, so yay, so that's why we're here. So even for this round of changes, there was a massive number of changes. I think we did about 50, well, it shows there 51 for both SIGs and another 50 for chems or somewhere around there. So basically one a day since like August. So we've had tons, like if there's any draft or drafts that people want to talk about, it seems to be this because we get comments from everybody. Today, these drafts are aligned with both FIPS 204 and 203. So the MLChem and MLDSA, we want to keep them that way. And so one of the big changes, as you know, was the context. So anyway, there's quite a number of changes. I was going to list all the changes, but we decided you can read that yourselves. So if you look at the drafts, we have, the changes in section, there's 3 and 5. We're only going to concentrate on kind of the big changes that we think are important to mention. And so right now we think these have the right shape and they are aligned with each other. That's why we wanted to do them together. So if you look at even the table of contents, they both pretty much align. So I'm just going to go over quick the changes with MLDSA because I know we're running out of time. And of course, the big change, so NIST came out with the MLDSA, the standard, yay, so we're getting close, right? So they added this thing called a context, which you all know about. So we are aligning with them. So now we have a composite MLDSA sign that will take a context. And then, so step 1 now is it checks the length of the context to make sure it's not greater than 255. And then that part that highlighted in step number 2, last time, if you remember, it was a domain concatenated with just the message, hash of the message. We'll get to that. So this is the pure mode. So we actually have both pure mode and hash mode. So the next slide, I'll go through the pre-hash mode. But anyway, you can see that we've added the length of the context and the context. So that aligns with, you want to say something? That aligns with what they do in the MLDSA draft. The other thing, step 4, you can see, so down at the crypto layer, when it's actually doing both signatures, we actually pass the domain into as the context for MLDSA. So we actually make use of the MLDSA context, and that's to give it a better non-separability property. And yeah, just we have a kind of a side note there. We know that like the EdDSA and a couple other RSA and EC that the regular, the tried and true algorithms don't support context. So obviously we can't support them there. We know the EDDSA one can, but also those were in CMS, they were recommended not to be, like they disallow use. So we do have an open GitHub issue. We could add that, but maybe that would complicate things. So we haven't done that for now. So that's the pure mode. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Mike wants to say something.
So I was literally replying to Sophie on Zulip before I walked up here. Now I can't see Zulip anymore. But so my question is, like, when we say no context, do we mean when you are signing a data object that LAMPS has specified, when you are signing a TBS cert, or when you're signing a CMS object, we want those protocols that LAMPS owns to say no context? Or do we want to say, if you have a key in a certificate, no protocol anywhere in the world can use a context? We've assumed the first one and therefore exposed a context here.
I honestly don't quite know what the best answer there is, in my opinion, because I mean, the thing that you have here is that the traditional signature scheme doesn't have a context. Obviously, you can add the context to a traditional signature scheme, and you even did it in the line before where you have the length of the context and the context there.
Yeah.
So the thing that confuses me about the context is that normal signature schemes don't have this field, so protocols do domain separation. And if you have a protocol that sort of doesn't care what signature scheme you're using, then it cannot really use this context that that MLDSA provides. So that is my reasoning to say the MLDSA context might always have to be empty, just because it would make MLDSA otherwise not hot swappable with other signature schemes. You can also say you use that context. It doesn't seem particularly harmful.
You're talking about step 4 here, right? The context passed down. No, you're talking about step 2?
She's talking about step 2.
Okay.
Yeah, like basically if you, yeah, like there's the question, like it's almost like the before step 1 even, of like your usual signature scheme does not have this context field. And I don't know, I don't have strong feelings about this. It doesn't feel like a very harmful thing to have there. It like it's basically you can't use the old APIs with MLDSA now anymore.
That's right.
So yeah, this is a hot mess. You can see why we've had 50 some odd issues to address since August. So we sort of, because this is a hot mess, our design approach since August has been whatever 204 does, we're just going to do that exactly. And then hopefully that's a defensible design choice. We didn't actually make a design choice. We just did what 204 does.
Yeah, but now you're getting into the HSM people saying they can't use PKIX 11, which is exactly this problem of existing APIs don't have this field. Yeah, I don't have strong feelings about this. I think just leaving it empty is a defensible option. But
are you saying
using
recommending?
it is also not going to do anything bad. I think this is a case where we need to make a decision and commit to it.
Yeah, so you're recommending taking that out or just leaving it empty, saying this is empty?
Yeah, I have a slight preference for leaving it empty just because it means that signature schemes are always the same thing.
Okay, so it would follow the format, but just being empty. So the length of context would still be 0 and context.
Yes,
okay.
yes, you would have basically a 0.
Yeah, and that can yeah, okay.
You can also pass it up in the chain, and then the people up in the chain decide to leave it empty. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Okay, we only have 2 minutes left in the session. So what we will do is go through as many of these as we can, but we'll pick up in our next session.
Daniel Kahn-Gilmore, the argument that we should stick with the old APIs, which have known risks of cross-protocol misuse, is a recipe for never fixing that problem ever. And so I don't think we can just, yes, I agree, the old APIs are broken, and we should be preparing defenses against cross-protocol use, especially for objects that are likely to sign multiple kinds of things that may have wire format aliasing.
So Daniel, you're saying we should use them.
We should keep context in here. We should expose it, and we should tell the folks who have APIs that are broken that they need to adjust their APIs.
Daniel just stole my thunder.
Yep.
As for four, basically this makes it makes it nicer so that at least if we have a composite signature, they can't separate it out and claim they have the same MLDSA signature. As far as what Stephanie said about doing the same thing for traditional, that doesn't work because they still have an existential forgery against whatever we've hashed.
Okay, we're going to have to stop there. We'll resume on this slide when we have the next session tomorrow.
I was gonna say, I was giving you a preview. The next one we're talking about is the prehash too. So be prepared for tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, we tried to do
Okay.
it high level. So
Thank you so much. Same bat time. Same bat channel.
Last time we split in the middle of
Yeah. Maybe there's a reason.
No.
I know.
anyway, thank you, Russ.
Hi. Good to see you, man. Bring your thing. Because one of us can see the approvals and be approving slides.
Oh, no, I know. I'm sorry.